Welcome to Running for Real, a global community with a shared love and curiosity for running. Together we reconnect with the reasons why we love to run and discover ways it helps us become better people. Whether it's the quiet moments of a morning run while the rest of the world still sleeps, or befriending the strangers next to you at the start line of a race, we are here to connect with others who see running as the common thread that weaves our lives together. Come join me, Tina Muir, as I talk with people from all walks of life, united by a love of running. Hello, my friends. Welcome to episode 370 of the Running for Real podcast. Thank you for joining me today. I'm excited that you are here. And today, while it may seem like today's episode is a hard one, a negative one, a tough listen, and maybe you feel like you haven't got the space to listen right now with your own challenges, I want to remind you that this is where human beauty really comes through the most. And you will see that with this episode today. I am excited that my guest is here, that I've had the opportunity to meet her, and also the lessons that I have learned from her, the light and the love and the beauty that she gives out to the world, despite her youngest son, Eli, who you're going to hear about, who was diagnosed with a brain tumor and eventually lost his chance to continue living on this earth and has now continuing his journey elsewhere. I think Heather has some amazing lessons that we can all take into our lives. And I really think it's going to make you appreciate so much about our sport and what it was able to give Eli and now what it's giving Heather. And I think this is a powerful episode. So without any further ado, let's get to this episode with Heather Mahnken. I want to thank our friends over at 2before for sponsoring this episode. 2before contains blackcurrants. Blackcurrants are berries that have been scientifically proven to increase cardiovascular endurance, speed up muscle recovery, reduce inflammation, and support immunity. And studies have shown that New Zealand blackcurrants can improve athletic performance by 4.6%. And as someone who has to squeeze in things constantly, I do not have the flexibility to be able to throw in my workouts whenever I want them. They just have to go where they go, and that means I have to be ready on cue. That is where I've been using 2before as my pre-workout. A single serving of 2before contains 120 milligrams of blackcurrant anthocyanins, and that is proven to deliver performance and recovery benefits. So as someone who has been recovering from an injury over the past few months, I have been taking a lot of 2before to support me in my other workouts and support me along my journey, speeding up that recovery, and as I get back to running, improving my endurance. I want to encourage you as a friend of mine to go check out 2before.com. That's the number 2before.com and use code TINA. That will get you 30% off. You can mix it with any drink, just one scoop in your water or whatever else you want to take it in, and you will start feeling the benefits. And I just want to mention blackcurrant. If you've never had that flavor, it's kind of sweet, kind of tangy. It is a wonderful flavor. I love it. It reminds me of my childhood. You should check it out. Go to 2before.com and use code TINA at checkout to get yourself 30% off. Heather, welcome to the Running for Real podcast. I am excited that you are here today. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you so much for this invite. It's such a pleasure.
Yeah, I am so thankful for our mutual friend, Margaret, for introducing me and sharing your story with me and allowing me to get to hear this powerful journey that you've been on. We're going to talk about your son, Eli, and how running ties into all of this and how it ties into your own journey and what you're doing. And I think it's just going to be a really important conversation. I mentioned to you beforehand that I had a guest on previously, Warwick Wood, who talked about losing his son. And it was just a very powerful episode, and an episode that spoke to many people, provided them with a lot of solace. And I've had many people come up to me over the years and say how much comfort that episode brought them. And so I think it is important that we continue to talk about, the loss of when we have a child loss. It is obviously, everyone knows, just there isn't really much worse, but at the same time, it's not something that should be avoided and a conversation that we should just kind of pretend that doesn't exist. So we're going to dive into some of that today. But I want to begin by saying you have something that you're currently training for. And so will you share that with us? And we're going to then start backtracking as to why that is important.
Yes, I'm very excited that on November 5th, I will be running the New York City Marathon.
Mm-hmm. And for the listeners, what is
doing
this
that
in terms of it? Yeah.
In honor of my son, Eli, who had a love for running, and also for me, the healing process of what running has brought to my life, and just creating connection and creating an ability to see life differently.
And for you, before we go into the story about Eli and how running, was important to him, for you, was running a part of your life before Eli was born?
Not really. I have always been an athlete, and I ran because I played rugby and I played soccer, but I didn't make it that wasn't my jam. And then when my husband was military and when he deployed, I started running with women of their husbands were deployed too. And so it's like, oh, this is a community. We can create a community by, doing these. So it's always been in the back of my head as something that felt good, but not necessarily something that I inspired to.
And so with that, what number marathon is this for you?
This is number 2.
Number 2. Where was the first one?
I did. The first one was it was St. Jude's in Memphis.
And when was that?
2018.
Okay. So Eli was born. Did he did have his diagnosis at that point?
Yes. So Eli was born in June of 2015. He was a typically developing, very precocious little kid. And then I started noticing changes in his movement just before his second birthday. And he was diagnosed with brain cancer in April of 2017. He went through the typical course for his diagnosis. And unfortunately, by the summertime, he had failed that course. And we were pretty much told that there was no path for us forward.
So can I ask quickly, when you say failed, for someone who wouldn't know what that meant, what does that mean, failed his course?
So that means the tumor didn't respond to the treatment and it continued to grow. So his course was that he had a major, he had 11-hour brain surgery where they removed the tumor, and they were hoping that would take care of the situation. And unfortunately, the tumor got very angry and it came back very aggressively and grew at a much faster rate. So it was a very scary summer in 2017. We elected to we would just throw whatever we could at the situation. And he had radiation to his brain, which is very scary. And I felt a pressure within myself that I had to remain positive, and I never really talked about what we were going through, other than, the day-to-days of, raising 3 kids. And
you mean with him or with just everyone in your world?
With everyone in the world. Okay. And so what I found was I got extremely lonely and extremely sad. And I was like, I can't keep doing this. So there was a flyer or something about a marathon and all these people smiling. And I was like, that's what I'm going to go do. I'm going to go run a marathon. And I was like, I think it was February. And I was like, sure, I'm just going to go do this. And then I told a couple people. And by the end, there was a group of 12 of us that went to Memphis and ran the marathon together. So it was fabulous. And
all new runners?
All different levels of running.
Okay.
There was some that, actually one of the runners that was with our group, he came second place for his age group. So he gave his award to Eli. But yeah, I was in the back end. But I finished, and that's the whole point. Like I talked about how, going through that, like I never felt lonely. It's like one of those things of a community that just comes out and embraces people at wherever they are, and you cheer people on. And that is definitely what I needed at that point in my life. I needed to be cheered on.
What during the training period, you've just said there about the community piece of it, but how did you find it was helping you in your day-to-day life of knowing that, your son was going through this incredibly traumatic experience that, as we will go to talk about, there were some unconventional treatments that extended his life, but still, how did running help you to process what you were going through? And, you mentioned the loneliness piece, but beyond that.
Running has helped me process my feelings. And I'm a visual person. And I speak to this, that one day when I was running, and I was PRing the day. I was like, fabulous. I was like, oh gosh, I'm going to be able to get home and do so many different things. And I'll never forget, like I, rounded the corner, and the sun was coming up, and you started seeing, it was like the darkness with the lightness and like the tranquility of it all. And I just realized that I was spending my life trying to find peace, and really pieces in the chaos, pieces all together, and embracing that, and just, taking strides towards that just has always, since then, has been extremely healing for me.
When you say pieces in the chaos, give us a bit more idea of what you mean by that.
When I was younger, I think of peace of like this quietness and stillness that, would happen, that it's like this, everything will stop and it will feel like peace. And I never understood the duality that it's possible that you find peace in other situations. And I think that I needed a picture to realize, like, when you have to overcome something that's really hard or challenging, that sometimes it's not just like it all clicks and there's like perfect pieces that are a perfect path. It's really embracing just all the different colors that come into those moments. Does that make sense?
Yes. And did you struggle at all with the training in that time to leave Eli even for, chunks of time, or did you quickly learn the benefits of doing that were outweighing the kind of concern of leaving him? Or was he in school or
he was starting? So at that time he was in preschool. But I would train. I don't know if I completely thought about it, but I would get up at 4 a.m. to start training. And so he wouldn't wake up until later. So by the time I got home from training, I didn't miss very much.
Okay. Yeah. So it wasn't okay. And then, so you did this marathon, you found the community, found this peace within yourself. And was it then that you thought, I want to do another one of these someday? What was your intention when you finished that race?
I had none. But it was at that point that I think I passed the baton to Eli. So Eli at that point fell in love with running. I don't know if it was because mommy would go away and run for long periods of time. I don't know if it made him feel better. I have no idea, but he, running fast and, was a huge priority for him. And, it's very hard when you have a disease, that you have no control over. So he went through a period. We were on a kind of a experimental course of care for 2 years from 2017 to 2019. And then he took a break from it, and wasn't on any type of treatment, and he did better than expected. And the tumor did not grow. And so, there was this far-fetched belief that maybe that he was cured, that we, beat all the odds. And during that time, Eli started chasing his friends around. He had more energy. He got so much fat. Like, it was a huge priority for him. And so because it was a priority for him, it was a priority for all of us. Unfortunately, he started to lose the ability to run back in like June of 2020. And it was the tumor starting to come back. We didn't know it at that time, but that's pretty much what was going on.
Yeah.
And then there was even a bigger drive for him to be able to get stronger and to be able to run, to be able to ride a bike. And so he just pulled me along with him, and he's like, this is something you have to do, Mom. And so I did it. And, what amazed me is he never, even with everything he had against him, and even when he struggled, he always had this belief he'd get back to running. It was very cool.
And from what Margaret had said to me, he had to relearn motor skills because of tumors. So during that time, was he able to get back to running? And
Yes.
That was another time he relearned?
So he relearned when he had the main brain surgery in 2017. He lost the ability to walk, but he was a toddler at that point. So he started running, but he hadn't been a real runner. And then in 2020, he lost the ability to run and pretty much walk at that point. And then he had to relearn that. And then we tried a different drug in December of 2020 in hopes of curing the cancer. And we made him really sick, and we damaged his nervous system again. And he wasn't able to walk at all or run or climb or anything. And then he had to relearn everything. But he was determined. He was like, I think the doctors were extremely surprised because on the day before Christmas, he came in and we had to carry him in because he couldn't walk. And by right after New Year, he was climbing and running again.
Wow.
So
that's amazing. So I want to go into the 3 wishes that Eli, you asked Eli for his 3 wishes for life. How did that conversation come about?
I work at a children's hospital, and it is a programming that they do with kids that are going through a really hard situation. And I was like, well, maybe this can help us, and help Eli. Because, you can't make wishes like, I want to get married, those, I couldn't go there. I couldn't sit and have those conversations with him. And so I think it was my way of helping create expectations that we all could meet together.
Yeah.
And so when he was coming back after the last time that he was having a hard time, or he lost the ability to walk, we started talking about stories of other people and athletes that have gone through hardship. And I brought up Wilma Rudolph, who had polio, and she had left-sided weakness like Eli. And I told him about the story and about how she overcame it and how she won a gold medal at the Olympics. And then we were in Clarksville, Tennessee, where they have a statue of her. And he was able to then, like, he got a picture with her and he's like, I'm going to get a gold medal just like her. And he just, like, his drive to run fast went into overdrive, and it was so cool. So when we told him, unfortunately, that the cancer had spread all over his nervous system, and the only thing that we had in our ability was to try to slow the drug, or just try to slow the spread of the disease. He said, okay. And then I said, so buddy, what's 3 things you want to be able to do? And he said, well, I want to go to kindergarten. And then he said, I want to run in the Olympics like Wilma Rudolph. And then his 3rd wish was that he wanted to go to Great Wolf Lodge. And so I was like, okay, we'll make those things happen. And sure enough, there was like an event or he went to kindergarten. That was, like, I think the easiest out of all of them. He went to kindergarten and he loved it and played with all the kids and taught them about his situation. And then we did the Olympic event, which was very exciting for him. And
yes, I want to talk about that in depth in a minute. Yeah, definitely.
He thought that was the greatest thing in the world. And then, we went to Great Wolf Lodge. But after that point, that's kind of how we lived. Like every period of time was making those 3 wishes. So the next set of 3 wishes after that was, like, he wanted to be able to ski a black diamond. He wanted to lose a tooth, and he wanted to play soccer. So, like, there were little boy things that he could relate to, that he could have control over. And that just helped us all live our lives. And it was amazing because when he was told that there was so much disease, they were shocked because he was running up and down the halls. He was doing box jumps for them. And they're like, you should not be this functional based on your scans. And so we don't know how long this is going to last. He stared at them and he said, oh, okay. And so we talked about the whole process, and he was so deliberate. And I asked him what was most important for him. And he told me that he wanted to go to the 1st grade and run the mile and be on the Wall of Fame, which is being one of the 10 fastest kids in his class. And I was like, oh, that may be a tall order. And he's like, no, it'll be okay. I will. He says, we just need to train a little bit more. And after that day, he came home, and every day we would get on the treadmill, and he would pick he would do his own HIIT training and would make jokes about it. And then afterwards he would do his strength training that he was given by his PT of keeping his legs as strong as possible. And then he went and ran it. And remarkably, he was the 7th fastest little boy in his school for 1st grade.
Thank you to Allbirds for sponsoring this episode of the Running for Real podcast and for supporting me in my journey. Today, I want to talk to you about the Women's Tree Dasher 2. Now, I will be wearing these as I start going through these major marathons where I work long days. When I was at the Chicago Marathon last year, I worked a 13-hour day, multiple days in a row, and I wore my Women's Tree Dasher 2 every day. They were incredibly comfortable. Even when I walked back into my hotel room late at night, I did not have any aches and pains. I love the amount of colors that they come in. My favorite is definitely the Calm Cargo, which is kind of like a greeny colored. As you know, I do love green as it is a naturey color. They are very comfortable. They have great stability. And of course, as is Allbirds, they are passionate environmentally. They are doing the work. They are a B Corp and a highly rated B Corp at that. So that means they are doing what they need to do to be an environmentally sustainable company and relentlessly sticking to that. And so I encourage you to go check out the Tree Dashers if you have something for work, a work job that allows you to wear a pair of trainers, or just for traveling, for when you're on your feet for a lot of time, or just day to day. You will often see me wearing these shoes. They are my go-to. And if you go to allbirds.com, you can go check them out. And also, if you use the link in the show notes, you can get yourself a free pair of socks with your order when you add those to your cart using that link in the show notes. Go check it out at allbirds.com. Yes, I love hearing that. And let's before I want to go into some of those in a bit of depth, but with the the setting these goals, how important is that, do you think? I mean, for anyone who's going through something extremely difficult, but especially when it comes to something like this, where you have no control over like how quick things are going to happen, how fast he's going to decline. Talk about having goals to work towards. As you mentioned, this was not just for him. This was like as a family, you work towards them. Like, how did that really help you all to process this while it was happening?
It allows giving you something that you do have control over, helps you to focus on the joy of life.
Mm-hmm.
Because even in the darkest days, in the saddest moments, there's always joy. And I think that that's what helped our family. Like, we were able to find those moments where we could celebrate each other, where we could just have those moments of genuine love and appreciation. And that is something I treasure.
Did you ever struggle with that element of experiencing joy while going through something, like feeling guilt for feeling that?
Not while Eli was alive. And I think it was because we were just trying to live as much as we could.
Mm-hmm.
And we never knew how much time we were given. So I don't think I ever let my mind go into any other spot. And I think I innately love just having fun. And so it was so much fun it was so great to have all that fun as a family.
Mm. Yes.
And those memories I just cherish.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I believe that. So I want to talk about the Olympics dream or wish he had, because that's an example of something where someone can say something of like that, this is a lifelong wish. And you could take it a few ways. You could say, well, I'm sorry, honey, I can't do that for you. Because, of course, he can't run in the actual Olympics. No one would ever know if they would ever be able to actually get in the Olympics or not. But you managed to creatively find a way to make that wish come true. So tell us about that, especially that experience, the Eli Olympic event, and just what went into that moment and why it was so important.
I think this whole experience has helped me understand that the power of a village, it makes miracles happen. And all I said was, Eli wants a Olympic event. And I told my coworkers this. And I was like, I don't care if we hop over a fence and just run on a track. I was like, let's just, he just wants to be able to run the 100. Mm-hmm. I didn't have any expectation. And what that allowed was the freedom of everybody else who also was struggling with this whole thing of like watching our family go through something we couldn't control, no one could control, and they could just give for a day.
Yeah.
And it was a spectacular event. There was other kids there. Everybody was running and being active and playing games and laughing. And that's what Eli loved. That's, I think that's one thing that he got from running was that, again, that community of what brings people together. And so full, like he was joking around about everything. It was amazing.
So what did the event involve? What kind of events did you have? Did Eli participate in all of them? Like, what did this Olympic event look like?
So the amazing thing about Eli is he never looked like he had cancer. And
when you say that, what do you think people envision when you say that?
So he never lost his hair.
Okay.
He was very active. He was running around. So he didn't have like that fatigue or that sickliness that some people see, or like, to be honest, like a St. Jude's
Yes.
commercial ad.
Yes.
He didn't have the immune suppression, so he could be around kids and not worry about being sick because of the course of treatment that he took. So those are things that made him different. And so the event was great because he didn't need rest breaks. So I think they did there was a 400-yard dash. Then they had a relay, the long jump, an obstacle course. Then they played sharks and minnows. So it just was a great, fun day.
Was this with other kids or was it like adults participating as well?
All of the above. People came with their kids.
Love that.
Different adults came that were a part of his life, either at his school, at the preschool he grew up at, our church, and then work. So it was a very large group of people that came together.
Amazing.
And the news actually came to the event and was able to record a bit about the whole experience, which was really cool.
Yeah.
And the school that did the local high school, donated or let us use their track.
That's nice.
And we not only that, but then they said, you know what, we have a track too, and we have an event. And so he can come to a football game and he can race the mascot. I was like, oh my gosh, at nighttime, and like all the different things in my head about like how this would not be a good idea. And I was like, sure, we'll do it. And they're like, let's do it on homecoming. And I was like, I don't think that's the time to. I was like, that's about other things about the school. And the student body told us that would mean a lot to them if Eli would come for their homecoming. And he ran out with the football team. And what was like, there are really no words for it, but as he was running out with the football team, all you heard in the entire stadium was everyone cheering Eli's name. And they all had posters and they were like, go Eli, go Eli. And like, he thought he was like a king. He thought he was royalty.
It's so amazing.
And so he did, he raced the mascot during one of the breaks between the quarters. And the band played, and it was, anyway, everyone was loving Eli's running love.
Yes, I love that so much. And I will put a link in the show notes. There are some videos of him in the championship, in the Olympic event. I think that was it, right? You have some videos from maybe the news channel that I will put in the show notes. So then, as this is, he continued to have these goals. Eventually, you did lose Eli in October 2022, which isn't that long ago. I mean, still very much a part in the grieving process right now. Talking about, you and your approach now. I read something that you wrote to me before we started recording this, which is, and I'm going to read it if you're okay with that. Loss changes you. It's not a choice. It is thrust upon you. Losing a child is losing an extension of who you are. And then, you go on to share about what Eli meant to you. You told me that, his earthly presence is gone, and the world continues to move forward, which I'd imagine was a really, hard thing to come to terms with. And you talked about having a choice. So maybe you could speak to that of coming to that realization that he's gone, yes, but also that you have a choice with how you're going to live your life moving forward. And maybe I'd imagine it's quite challenging at times to talk about it that frankly, when in our world, grief and death is so much avoided and supposed to be something that you suffer through in silence. So, talk to us about that.
Well, the choice that I've in my current story, in the current chapter, is you can pretend that it didn't happen, and you could just let it sit inside you and rot and change you into a different person, a bitter person, one that doesn't see the potential of the day. And you can be bitter and angry that you don't have your child anymore. Or you can say, I am bitter. I'm not bitter. I am angry. I am sad, but I also can do things still on this earth. And I'm going to bring my son with me, and I'm bringing him with me in my heart. And that's what I've chosen. Mm-hmm. Eli, in true Eli fashion, we asked at the very end, again, what are your 3 wishes? And he said that he wanted to run at school. And he said the second one is he wanted to ride the roller coasters at Universal Studios in Florida. And I said, well, we were supposed to go to Spider-Man City in New York City. And he smiled at me, and he took my hand and he put it on my heart. And he said, it's okay, Mom, you can take me in your heart. And so when the possibility to run the marathon came up at New York City, I knew for a fact, I was like, this is Eli. Yeah. And he's helping me heal.
Thank you to Precision Fuel and Hydration for sponsoring this episode of the Running For Real podcast, and for finally getting me to a place where I feel confident in my fueling and my hydration strategy. And as someone who ran at the world-class level and realizes how much she left on the table in her former life by not getting those 2 things ready, I want to tell you, if you care about your upcoming goal, do not hold off on this. This is something you want to get dialed at this point, not in the few weeks to go, not in the month to go. You want to build it up now so you have time to practice. And I want to encourage you on that note to go check out their Fuel and Hydration Planner, which is free. You do not have to use Precision products to use it. I definitely encourage you to go check that out. There is a link in the show notes so you can yourself figure out how much carb, fluids, sodium you need to perform at your best in your key runs. So go check out that link in the show notes. You can also go to precisionfuelandhydration.com/Tina. That is going to auto apply a 15% discount code, or you can use the code Tina sent me if you want to just use the discount code yourself. I want to encourage you to go check out the gels. I have a funny thing with textures. I really don't like a lot of the gels on the market, but I love Precision because it goes down very easy. That gel is something I've never had a problem with in terms of stomach upsets. I take it down in one go. It's not something I have to take my time with and struggle through. I really enjoy taking them, especially when I alternate with the chews. I love the lemon and mint combination of flavors there. And with the gels, you can get a caffeinated version or a non-caffeinated version, depending on what you need. And I love that there is a high carb content in there of 30 grams of carb per product. In addition to that, they do have the hydration products with electrolytes. Depending on your sweat rate and the strength that you need, you can get yourself any of those. I have been using those throughout the summer and really enjoying using them. So again, go to precisionfuelandhydration.com/Tina or use code Tina sent me to get 15% off, and go check out that planner. It is free. It is there for you to use. It is in the show note. Go check it out. Yeah, so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And that obviously is, just profound for what, he was 7?
Yeah.
7-year-old to say that. Obviously been through so much and matured beyond his years in that experience. But yeah, having this opportunity and your second marathon, like New York is a marathon that people, dream of running in for 20 years. And like you said, he's here. This is him going to be with you. You get to do it. And as you said about that choice, this is him saying that's okay, right? He's saying, do it, go do it. I'm with you in your heart, and go follow your path. Go, march forward with me, with you, from inside. So, I do want to talk about the training for the marathon, New York City Marathon. You've been to New York before?
Yes.
Okay. So, have you been there marathon weekend?
Nope.
Okay. It's just electric. Yeah. Yes. Very, very special weekend. And just on a side note, I'll tell you, but I also tell anyone listening, 100, I've told this so many times, 100%, I've told Margaret this too, go to the finish line in the evening. And I don't know what time you'll be finishing or what wave you're in, but like I think it starts at 7:30, but the final finishers party that they have, from 7:30 p.m. to 10 p.m. is one of the most incredible things to experience. Seeing these people who've been out there, got up the same time as everyone else, but started late, been going all day on their own for hours on end, because everything's started to be packed up by that time, and there's just a huge party at the finish line with music and MCs and just a celebration. It's just a beautiful experience. So I'm going to tell you to go do that as part of your experience, no matter how tired you are. And then also for anyone listening, that's something I always tell people to do. It really captures the essence of the New York City Marathon. So
I can't wait. I'm excited.
Yes. But before we get to that, I do want to go to getting to this point. You mentioned earlier that you didn't struggle with experiencing joy while he was still here, but that obviously inferred that you did afterwards. So talk to us about that. As we said, that, we're not quite at a year yet since his passing, at least here on Earth. And have you struggled with that? You said about finding the beauty in each moment, as well as while you can hold these two things, the duality of it, of holding these two things at the same time. Have you found that hard at times to be able to experience that joy and allow yourself to have that joy when you're supposed to be, quote unquote, grieving?
I have guilt about feeling joy right now, about different things. I feel guilty also about not being better at the grieving process. And that, is my own expectation or my own interpretation of what I view that society has put on people. Who knows if that's really what people think or feel. That's my perception of it. And
can I ask what you do view that as? What do you feel like the correct way is?
That you kind of move on.
Pretty quickly? Just get on.
Yeah. You get back to work. You get back to doing things. No, yeah. You just get back to the general flow because time marches on and you should march on with it.
And how do you see that as different to, you saying about this choice you're making, and you are making this choice, you are doing something for yourself, in your self-critical self, how are you not doing it, quote unquote, how you're supposed to be? Even though, we can all agree we shouldn't be doing anything because of the way society tells us to do something. But what is it you feel that you're not doing right?
Well, running has really helped me find anger, actually. And I think that as you push yourself to a harder, the longer runs, when you're doing, your strength training, your interval training, all of those things, you're pushing your body. And as you push your body, you're pushing that part of your emotion centers. And there's been runs that I have never, I was like, wow, look at all this anger. And, this is an opportunity, one, to get it out, and two, to just sit in it. And no one's making judgment, except myself, making judgment against myself. But you're not, the world isn't. And it's a freedom, and it's a breath of fresh air that you get to be you. And that is a gift that in this training cycle of this marathon that I've been given myself, or given a gift that I've been given to, or a gift that I have given myself.
Yes.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
And that is, it is okay for me to be who I am.
Yes, absolutely. And, he is, as you mentioned earlier, or maybe you wrote it to me, like, he is a part of you. So that part of you being who you are is also allowing him to be who he is within you. And you have, maybe not spoken to specifically in this, but shown evidence of time and time again resilience. This is something really important to you. It was obviously important to Eli. Talk about how that is a factor for you as you work through, this next chapter of your life, or all the chapters of your life, really.
Well, I think that, how I sit in awe because, his final day, where before he started his transition, was October 13th. And there was something in my gut that said that things are off. I didn't know what it was. He was himself. I think my kids, I would love to hear their perspective, because they're like, why does Eli get to stay home from school?
That was on that day?
Yeah. And I was like, Eli, you want to go for a run? And he's like, oh, no, I think I asked him if he wanted to go for a run. He told me yes. He's like, let's run a mile, Mom. And I was like, okay. And I had not been I wasn't keeping up with Eli very well with our running. And we ran a mile together, and he turned to me, because he beat me, and he told me, he's like, gosh, Mom, you really got to start training if you're going to run a marathon.
So he didn't know you were running New York at this time? Okay. And
I was like, you know what, buddy, you're right. And I think that's how I look at life now. It's like, set your goals, and I think make them small, and then start training for them. And the wisdom of my 7-year-old is just helping me get through this.
Yeah. Such a just a timely, the fact that you recognized that just something in you told you to keep him home, that you went on that run together, that he was ahead of you, showing you that that was a memory that he was probably reflecting on right as he left this world, because it was that fresh in him, and reminding you that, as you've talked about, you can do hard things, any of us can, and you keep that in your mind and your heart as you are training for this. And I'm assuming none of the training that you're doing comes close to the pain that you've experienced, in this last 11 months. So that is a way that you can get through this, because you've been working your way through that. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with the community listening here? Obviously I'll put a link to go donate and support you for your run in New York. But anything else you want to share with the community?
Well, first, thank you for being such an amazing group of people who just reach out and connect with people and realize the importance of our existence. And I think that makes us so, it's so special, and it's so special to find. Above all, I think the most important thing is listen to people's stories and hear people and realize we're not in this world alone. I have felt alone, but I was able to find connection because I took a gamble. That maybe this would help, and it did. And I am so grateful for that. But the biggest thing out there is for my family is understanding that childhood cancer exists. It's extremely underfunded. And I didn't know that until I was sitting with the oncologist and hearing the words and hearing that there's no options. And I was like, what do you mean there's no options? All I hear about is the advances in cancer research. And that is true, but it's for adults and it's not for kids. And kids' cancers are different than adult cancers. And no one thinks it's going to happen to them. Or at least I didn't. And maybe I was naive in that. But it's like, I eat the right foods. We do all the right things. This shouldn't happen to us. And the truth is, that was my belief that I could control something. And so I don't, just being aware of people's stories and hearing that, I think there's so much love to go around. We all have our own personal stories, but there's also just taking that moment and loving on that situation and just shedding that light on those people means the world to everyone.
Yeah. So true. So powerful and such a good reminder, as you said. With so many situations, we all just think, no, that won't happen to me. But any of these things can happen to any of us. And, just another reason to go through the world with empathy and compassion, because, any of us could find ourselves in any situation, anytime, that could be, just flip our lives upside down. And then the last thing you were saying about stories. So you wouldn't know this because you've only recently come to know me, but when I travel, so I do these things called together runs, and maybe you can join me for one sometime, where I carry a microphone with me on a run, and I do meditative elements in the first 10 to 15 minutes. And then we have a conversation, even though it's technically one-sided, but I leave space for people to answer their question. Like, how are you really? Give people space. And then, what have you been up to since we last ran together? Give people space. And when I go traveling, particularly before races, and I will do this at the Tracksmith Shakeout the day before the New York Marathon, I take my mic to these shakeout runs and I say to people, if you have something you want to share, come talk to me. And I put it on this podcast feed. And I quite often get people coming up to me who have these just unbelievable stories of like heartbreak or loss or like an accident where they nearly died and they were told they would never run again. And here they are, and people just want someone to listen and hear their story. I've had family members of those people email me and say, thank you so much for giving them the opportunity to share. Because you're right, like stories are so powerful, and it's with traumatic things, people just think that what the person going through that wants is to be left alone and not asked about like the loss of their son or the thing that they went through. And granted, at the beginning, yes, sure, you're overwhelmed, you're overloaded, but as people get back to normal and you're expected to get back to life, like it all dries up and you just want someone to talk to about it. So I appreciate you sharing your vulnerability, your courage, what you've shown us today with that courage and resilience that you are demonstrating with Eli, with you in your heart. And just appreciate you joining me today. So thank you so much, Heather.
Well, thank you so much for having me, and thank you for listening. This has been such a priceless moment in my life, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate you, and look forward to following along with how you're doing, and may even see you out there on the course on November 5th. Yes. Remember the 5th of November, as we say in England. But thank you so much, Heather.
Well, thank you, Tina. Thank you for the work that you're doing.
Before we go any further, I just want to give a quick shout out to the Running for Real team. Without them, I would not be able to do barely anything compared to what I'm able to do today. They are behind the scenes. They are there for me. I am just so appreciative of them. To Jeremy Nessel, our podcast editor, audio consultant, and someone who's been with me since the start. To Sally Pontarelli, our content and operations manager, who is there day to day doing all the things to help me be successful. To Kelsey Wang, our head of design, and Louise Murphy, our associate designer. And finally, to Sandy Gutierrez, our photographer and content strategist. I am appreciative of all of you and wouldn't be able to do what I do without you. I really appreciated my conversation with Heather. I am so thankful for the guidance that she gives, the light that she gives, the love that she continues to give out, and how much of a role our sport has played in hers and Eli's life. I hope you will find the show notes to go follow along with Heather's journey, to support her in New York. And if you are able to be there in New York, maybe you will be able to meet her at one of the events I am hosting. And on that note, the best way that you can stay up to date with events that are up and coming in Chicago, in Toronto, in New York, in Phoenix, at CIM, the best way you can do that is by going to runningforreal.com and signing up for the newsletter. That way you will be able to keep up to date with all that is going on. You aren't going to miss something. And you'll also be able to go to get the links to our sponsor opportunities there that are going to be at runningforreal.com/episode 370. And today you will be able to find links to Tumor to get that 30% off using code TINA. Allbirds, you will get that free pair of socks when you add that to your cart using the link in the show notes. And Precision, you can get that 15% off. And there's also that fuel and hydration planner. So go head over to runningforreal.com/episode 370. And I will see you on Monday for a Together Run. Thank you so much for listening.